Hello everyone, my name is Pooja and welcome to this Hey Are You Okay conversation with Lahar Mehta and Pawan Sony. And today we're going to talk about mental health and the creative life. And I would like to introduce you to what Filmwali is. I founded Filmwali about 4 years ago, where we document the life and working in the Indian film industry. And we also organize workshops, masterclasses to help us upskill ourselves and at the same time create a network of women working in the creative field, especially in cinema or OTT platforms or anything related to the audiovisual medium. And so when it comes to this particular period that all of us are going through right now, post COVID, I just thought it will be a interesting and enlightening to really understand where we all are as creative professionals mentally. And especially today is Friendships Day, and we thought, it'll be nice to have a support group of all of us trying to understand and help each other deal with the emotional crisis and the creative crisis that we might be feeling. And a lot of our participants today have in the survey that we had organized, they have spoken about feeling a sense of anxiety, feeling a lot of you said that you were creatively quite active, but still not feeling productive. So we will, Lahar and Pawan will touch upon the issues of how to be productive, how to also be at rest, and how different kind of productivity. Talk about that. And, so I'd like to introduce Lahar. Lahar is an interior architect. She runs her own design studio, and she also is a trained arts expression therapist. Pawan is a certified trauma-informed therapist, and he's also a screenwriter. He's worked on films like Stree, which is one of my favorite films, and so welcome all of you. Welcome all of you to the session. And so you can bring your chai and keep some paper and pens ready. So we'll be doing some exercises. And yeah, so let's head over to you.
Thanks, Pooja, for the introduction. And Akanksha, Neha, Anisha, Simran, Chandni, and Pawan, hello. Really nice to be with you all today on the Sunday pre-evening time.
So we would like conversation with you now, and like I said, a lot of our participants survey had mentioned they are feeling, and because of multiple reasons, be it crisis, be it health, be it the idea of. So can you give us some ways how we can take care of it and things which can inspire us to be non-stressed?
Sure, thanks, Pooja. So, being a creative, I think personally, and because we've all been co-inhabiting these few months of lockdown, there are just a few, thoughts that I've put down and I'm happy to share today. So I know that these times haven't been easy. We all have, I think, different constraints. There are some physical constraints and there are some mental constraints. And in terms of our physical constraints, I know that, some of us are sharing homes with a lot of people and not being able to have that sort of sense of time out or the sense of space to ourselves can feel a little trying and a little difficult sometimes. and possibly our work is also affected by this constraint. So yeah, that is the physical aspect of it. And then I guess there's a mental part of it where we suddenly find ourselves in uncertainty. We find ourselves in really not knowing what is going to come next. And I mean, I know that several people I know lately have been in different kinds of anxiety or different kinds of panic states. And so I completely understand, and I really thank each one of you for showing up today. And I'm just going to share a few thoughts that I thought were relevant. And please feel free to reach out later with questions and things. So to begin with, I thought that the first part would be around taking care of ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally. And the second part is to figure out ways to inspire productivity, because I think to inspire productivity without self-care may not come as easily. And so I kind of just broke it down into a few steps personally have been enriching for me. So the very first idea being around this, just removing and reducing clutter. Now, because there's really no room to bring in something new till we are removing something that doesn't serve us anymore. So I'm just going to quickly run through a few of these. And so this idea of removing physical clutter. Now, I'm sure each one of you have experience that in different ways in your life. Of course, you've heard of what Marie Kondo does and all of that. So I won't get into that in too much detail, but I would like to emphasize that physical clutter, like the removal of things that don't really serve us, go a very long way in helping us mentally and emotionally. So just bringing that in. And so the physical is one part, tied in very strongly to the emotional. And as far as ways to cope with taking care of our, so and I heard this somewhere which I thought was so relevant. Like, we all bathe every day, like we all bathe once or twice a day every day to take care of like physical health and cleaning our physical dirt, so to speak. But we don't take enough time to clean our mental dirt. And just a few tools for that. There's something called the morning pages, where the first thing in the morning you kind of do free flow journaling. And I'm happy to get into detail with this later. But I'm just putting a few tools and practices out there. So first thing in the morning, where you keep a little diary by your bedside and you release, like, in free flow writing, whatever comes up for you. Another practice may be just observing a little bit of silence or contemplation of some sort every day. It can be 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, whatever's comfortable to you. There are ways to, use exercise or use just body movement as ways to allow, releasing of stored emotions, which get stored in our body, to allow them to release. And so these are just a few ways. I mean, there will be several others, but these are a few ways that we can deal with one, releasing clutter. Now, once we release clutter, and I'm running through this because we don't have so much time, but happy to talk about it at a later stage. The second part is, to me, a very, very important part, which is setting intention. I feel that whenever we begin with any kind of practice or anything that we are desiring to do, so in this case, if the desire is to find ways to just work with stress or emotional strain, just setting an intention that I want to feel good, and setting an intention that I really want to take care of myself. I really want to take care of the people around me. I really want to do this for myself. plays a really big role, because I think that is the first step to self-love, because you validate that, because it's almost like an affirmation. You're saying this to yourself, and setting that intention helps us with the next step. And the third thing is, once you set an intention, you move towards clarity, and that being our practices. So I'm now going to run you through a little exercise, and I would like you to take the paper and pen that you have, and I'm going to ask you to list down 5 to 10 things that really up your energy, like it makes you feel alive, it increases your energy quotient, it just brings that sense of abundance, or that sense of flow, or that sense of connectedness into your life. So if you can write out 5 to 10 things that bring your and increase your energy, and then another 5 to 10 things that really drain your energy. Okay, so things that you feel do the opposite, and they don't really serve in you feeling good about yourself. So just make a quick note. I mean, it's super easy. You can just make 2 columns and write it. So I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes to do this. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask me, or you can put it on chat. But just take 2 minutes to do this. Okay, great. So I have some yeses, so I'm going to go forward. So now what I'm going to ask you to do, on another piece of paper or the same on the other side, I want you to draw yourself like this, okay? Indicative. It can be a stick figure, doesn't need to be anything very complicated. And I want you to draw a dotted line like this around yourself, okay? And you can leave as much space as you want. So you can decide how much space you want to leave around your self figure form. So do you want to bring it really close to you? Do you want to make it far away from you? Do you want to widen it? But make sure it's a dotted line, okay? So can you, if you guys can see this, this is just something I do really quickly right now. So yeah, I want you to do this. So what we are going to now do is everything that we've written which energizes us, we are going to put inside the circle, okay? You can put it as a word, as a symbol, as however, but I mean, only you need to understand what it is. So everything that you think energizes you, let it stay within the circle. And everything that you feel is negatively pulling you back and isn't allowing you to move forward, put that outside the circle. Cool. So the reason I did this little exercise is because I personally feel that physical spaces can really lend themselves a lot to supporting us emotionally. And we have a notion of a physical space which surrounds us. And then I also like to think of the space within me, within my mind, within my heart, within my body. I also like to think of that as a space, but I call that a personal space. And I think there's a very strong connection between physical and the personal. And so the third part I was talking about, so after I spoke about removing clutter and setting intention, the third part is this, where how do we actually kind of choose the emotions we want to keep, choose the situations we want to attract to ourselves, choose the energies that we want to allow, and how do we release the ones that don't feel good, that don't feel necessary. And this little diagram that we've done is actually just a really little simple exercise But, every time if there's a moment of worry, tension, anxiety, you're not sure, it's almost like saying, I'm going to stay within my circle and I'm going to stay within my personal space. And this is a space which, and the idea or the notion of a safe personal space is a space where we don't feel judged, a space where there is no room for criticism, and a space where we really allow. And the very, very first person who's going to do all of this for us is ourselves, right? So, how do I become for myself that space which is free of criticism, which is allowing myself to be and accept who I am, what is happening, and what is just looking at me and taking care of me with an immense with an immense amount of love and care. So, almost this idea of, having this little imaginary bubble, and the reason it's a dotted line is because it's permeable. Things will come in, things will go out, things will change, people will come in, people will go out. But the idea that everything that stays within this circle is something that feels good to us, right? And things that we want to allow and keep, that help support us emotionally. And so it's almost like you can imagine this little shield around yourself. I'm going to just take a few minutes more and quickly run you through this idea of how you can manifest the same thing into a physical space. And I would just request Pooja to pull out those, or should I do it? I can share the screen.
You can also do it, yeah.
Okay, I'll share it. Yeah. So, okay, so I've just pulled out a few images that I'm sharing with all of you. I hope you can see this. So I personally love this idea of creating an altar. Now, an altar, the way I'm speaking about it, has absolutely no religious indication or implication at all. But it's a small place where you just put collectibles that feel really good and nurturing to you. They hold positive memories. It can be a gift, it can be something fresh, it can be light, a candle, something that you picked up on your walk along the beach and reminds you of something beautiful, or like a little pebble that you may have picked up when you went for a walk. Uh, so so this idea of creating an altar, because that is a pure safe space that you can always physically go and check into wherever you are, sort of in your mental frame or emotional frame. It's kind of like checking into this one place that feels really good to you. And this can actually be created in any corner of your house. You can create a small space in your balcony, or you can just pick a little corner in your room, populate it with things that you really like. You can create, and this is a place where you can, choose to wake up and, do that little bit of 10 minutes of contemplation, 10 minutes of creative journaling, whatever it may be, to have just natural light and some kind of fresh air feels really nice, because it allows the space to breathe and revive, and just make it beautiful in your way, whatever feels beautiful to you. And like you can see here, it honestly doesn't need more than 2 to 3 square feet of space, like maybe 10, like just a little bit, and that should be enough. But I put this image here because as children, I know that we always loved this idea of creating tents. Like, I remember doing that a lot. And that also becomes a notion of safe space. And this is you can almost do that, in which you can create a little bit of this organic shelter for days that you need. And literally, you just need to hang up a nice looking dupatta or something like that. Create a container, because that physical notion of a container also really helps us if we are going through a particularly difficult time. So it's just a notional sense of safety and security. This is the last image, but here again, it's just the intention of it being, you make it the way you want, you fill it up with the things that feel meaningful to you, and you just bring in symbols, objects. And there's a beautiful practice where you can also, the way we spoke about setting intention, you can also put your intention into an object, or you can also put a fear into an object, or you can put a hope or a wish into an object, and you can place that on your altar and say, I'm putting an intention for this, and I'm putting an intention for allowing this fear to release itself, or this anxiety to release itself. So here are my little 2 bits about how we can, connect physical spaces with our emotions. And so, like I said, decluttering, setting intention, bringing clarity, which was this bit. And the fourth part, which again is super important, which is, as you are in this process, to pause and reflect, and you see what you want to allow into your circle and what you need to move out of your circle. So to kind of keep going back and forth and checking in. So I'm now going to move this to Pawan, because I think he's got some beautiful pointers around that. And I'm sorry if I took a few minutes extra. Sorry, Pawan. Not sure how you're doing on time.
Thank you so much, Lahar. It was lovely to see these images and try to imagine this space. I think all of us will try to create that little nook. So I'd like to invite Pawan now to talk about like the idea of pause and reflection that Lahar ended her session with. So Pawan, you can take it away.
Thank you, Pooja, and thanks a lot for Lahar. There were a lot of beautiful suggestions there. So what I'd really like to speak about and start with this need to be productive. I mean, we are in the middle of this pandemic where people are dying all over, and there's this need to be productive. We are not, and why is this need there? Because we are told that we are valuable only because only if we are productive. If we are not productive, there's no value. There's no value to our being. There's no value to ourselves. We need to be productive to have any kind of value around us. Also, and it's more complicated. That's not the only thing. We are also used to being productive. That's the way we have lived since childhood. Do this, do this, do this, do this. For a lot of us, life is like a to-do list. Ye kiya, cross this, and we are constantly moving. And sometimes we use it as a coping mechanism because the things that are going around us are very, very scary things. So they distract us from what's going on around us. The pandemic, the deaths, the financial insecurity. Also, this insecurity, especially the financial one, is also wants us to be productive because the economy has gone for a toss and we do need to earn. There are all these factors. Also, I think productivity is a way of holding on. It's a way of giving us some power over the things that we can do. I mean, what we produce is what we control. That if the world outside seems to be going out of control, we produce, and as creative people, we have some kind of control over what we do. That means some kind of control over our lives. Also, we are productive because out of the sheer love of the medium, a lot of us are in these professions because we are passionate about it. And then there's this glut of webinars, because education has never been so inexpensive. So much education was not so easily available right there. So we have the time to explore all that.
And there's a fear of missing out, I think.
There's a fear of missing out. Yeah. So yeah, and what does this lead to? This leads to being overwhelmed because there's so much to do. Fear, and it's not just that we have to do only these things. We have to just do our work because we also have to do things that we didn't do before because a lot of us had maids, a lot of us had household helps, and now we don't have. A lot of us don't have those things. So other time, we're like washing the dishes and we're making food and all that stuff. Also, I mean, there's like, we spend incredible amounts of time in sanitizing everything, everything that comes in, we have to sanitize it, and that takes a lot of time. That also adds to the anxiety. While it's very, very important thing to do, what it also does is add to the anxiety. And there's a lot of anxiety in the air. It's, there are deaths happening. There's fears कि मुझे तो नहीं हो जाएगा COVID, and economic fears, and all this adds to us being overwhelmed. And when you're feeling overwhelmed, you don't become that productive. You might end up leaving things midway, or you stop doing things at all. You're like, chuck it, I can't handle it. This is too overwhelming for me.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of days, days when we
sure.
feel like today I can't do anything, or
Absolutely, yeah.
super productive, and today I just don't feel like getting up from the bed.
Yeah.
So that is that extreme reaction on a day-to-day basis is also happening to a lot of us, I think. And especially in completing tasks. I think we start off with some idea or some essay. I mean, I've tried to write a few things, completing them because of this anxiety that's hovering around.
Yeah. And a lot of us are also calling ourselves lazy because we are not able to do this stuff. And I would like to tell you that we are not being lazy. It's an overwhelming feeling. A lot of times, what we call lazy are things that we don't do out of fear or out of this feeling of being overwhelmed. So actually, the whole notion of laziness is very, very problematic thing. And of course, then there's this social media that's going on, and where everyone is posting their success stories. ये किया, वो किया, 25 webinar कर लिए, ये skill सीख ली, 5 languages सीख ली. And that again adds to our anxiety. So what do? We rest. And I know it's kind of a crazy idea to give rest. I mean, I'm, talking about not being productive, and you're saying, chuck it, just go and rest. But rest is important. And resting is difficult. One, because we have been brought up with this value of hard work. It's been ingrained into us. There are all these kahawats like, jo sowat hai, wo khowat hai. And there's this, Khargosh and Kachwe wali kahani. The Kachwa is the hard worker. So the Khargosh may be the more talented one, but the hard worker wins. There are all these stories that have been fed to us since childhood, that hard work is very, very important. That's our culture. Also, film industry per se is a very insecure industry. A lot of, you hear a lot of times, maybe yourselves talking about that we are hustling all the time.
Yeah.
Hustling is another word I have a major issue with, because because hustling has a negative connotation. What we are doing is not hustling. We are just trying to survive. We are trying to create a place for ourselves. We are protecting that space. So when you say we are hustling all the time, you're really, really not doing yourself a service.
Yeah.
And sorry.
Yesterday you spoke about passion. You spoke about how following your passion is something that is a discourse that Bollywood or cinema kind of talks about, and how that can be in a way even more difficult and backbreaking. If you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'll come to that. So what happens if we rest? I'll just take you through the line, because so Stephen King said that for me, not working is the real work. When you're not working, a lot of things are happening. When you're resting, a lot of things are happening. One, it really lessens your chances of getting into a clinical depression. It helps you to rejuvenate. It relaxes your brain and puts you in a much better positive state of mind, which also adds to immunity, which also adds to immunity. And that's the buzzword right now. That's what we all need right now. So rest, and it's important. Also, we avoid burnout. Uh, as you must have seen and noticed that most of the filmmakers that are there in our industry have their good period for 10 to 20 years. A lot of them, not even that. They burn out very soon. Unlike our counterparts in the West, where Scorsese has had a career for 50 years, Clint Eastwood has had a career for 60 years. Most of our filmmakers work for 10, 20 years, and then they either become just producers or something or the other. A lot of them leave filmmaking, a lot of them retire, or just keep trying to make films. And we should also realize that as people, we are more than our productivity. Productivity is just a part of us. You're a complete human being. There's just one quality that you may or may not have, or may not choose to have. There's always a choice involved there, a choice to being a productive or not being productive, and there's nothing wrong with it. Your value does not come from what you produce. And how do we rest? One, we disengage. There are things, there are skills that you know, like the technique that Lahar taught us, the centering exercise. That's a wonderful way to induce some rest. There's something called PMGR, Progressive Muscle Group Relaxation, that you can check on. And that's a kind of a variation of what Lahar taught us. There's meditation, there's pranayama, there's yoga. And there's definitely things that we enjoy doing. And a lot of them might be, yes, let's get back to work, because that's what we enjoy doing the most.
Yeah.
But the problem is that that's also work. And that is what Pooja just said. There's this whole myth, there's a whole mythology that's been created that if you love your work, you would never be working a single day of your life. It's said in the ads, it's there in Three Idiots, and it's God knows how many crores, and everyone has kind of bought into that thing. But those of us who live our passions also know that it's very, very hard, backbreaking work. It saps our soul because we do enter our professions with a lot of idealism, with a lot of dreams. And we realize that it's not as easy as it looks. Living our passion is lovely, but it's also draining. So come back and do things which are not work. Step back from this eating, breathing, living cinema kind of a culture that's the done thing in andheri.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the culture that a lot of us are immersed in completely. Develop interests that may have nothing to do with cinema. At one level, of course, one understands that everything has to do with cinema, because in cinema we are talking about people and people's lives. So everything in one way or the other can be connected to cinema.
Yeah.
But if you don't look at it, maybe that would allow some more rest. And just allow yourself to be immersed in life. A lot of some of our best stories come from life. You might know a lot of filmmakers who made one film and then disappeared. They try to make some other films, but they didn't work, because a lot of times it was because they didn't have anything to say, because they lost that connect with real life. Because real life is happening in andheri, but real life is also happening out of andheri. And it's kind of constricts our spaces, kind of constricts our viewpoint when we're just watching films, when we are just living films, when we are just talking about films. And if you do decide to watch films, decide to watch series, binge on them, just try and reduce the number. because binging also becomes work. Binging
Yeah.
also becomes, we have to watch each and every series. It no longer remains fun. It's like market research. It's like you need to know everything. It's keeping up with the other people because उन्होंने वो देख लिया मैंने नहीं देखा है. And what if we discuss it in the next meeting?
Exactly.
So,
So that
try
is
to
also work.
reduce.
Yeah.
Sorry? Yeah.
So that is
yeah,
also work for us.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And decide what's best for you because that's very, very individual for all of us. For me, it might be a stand-up comedy show. For you, it might be tending to your plants. For someone else, it might be taking your dog for a walk. So it really depends on all of us. So work out what works for you. Like what Leher said, 5 things that give you energy. That's a wonderful way of finding out what works for you, what helps you relax. And if you do need to walk, take out time for yourself. Film industry has never been about 9 to 5, but maybe this is the time when you try to make it work in a particular schedule, so that it gives you some time to relax. Because the moment you go back to your usual schedule, 9 to maybe 1:30 at night, you're just working. That's going to have an impact. That's going to make you feel overwhelmed because the situation is not normal. We're living in the new normal. I hope it doesn't remain normal. But yeah, that's the buzzword right now, that this is the new normal. So yeah. So let's work with that in that way. And have frequent breaks, have chai breaks. Don't have 20 chais a day. That's not healthy. But yeah, has as many chais if you want, or coffee, or whatever works for you. But don't make it a 10-minute break. Give it at least 20 to 30 minutes. Because 10 minutes is like shuru hua or khatam hua. That might be a sutta break, but even with a sutta break, if you chat, that becomes a more relaxing thing. If you just finish your sutta, char sutte mein, and then you throw it and you're back to work, that's not that helpful. If you want to do it alone, do it alone. If you want to do it with someone else, do it with someone else. And have fun. That's the key. Have fun. Also, another thing that might help right now is say no. Say no to work that you can't really take up right now because you might have a limited mental bandwidth. So the more you take up, the more you would get overwhelmed and the more you won't be able to do it. Some of you might be quitting their projects because they find themselves unable to handle that kind of stress because they are in no emotional state to be. So take up only what you can do and say no to free work. That's not completely not helpful right now. Exercise, catch up on sleep, focus on relationships, spend some time with family, friends, and if it has to be online, so be it. Let's not look down upon social media relationships. A lot of us may have just that, and that's completely okay. Social media relation is a great place to make friends, to get people who have common interests, similar ideologies, similar ways of thinking. So yeah, those are the things that I wanted to talk about.
Thank you so much, Pawan. I think we'll think more about the idea of rest. And even in the act of creation, the idea of rest also works, right? Like when we think of an idea and then we on it and we work on it. But we
Absolutely, and as research says that at least 40% of our creative ideas come when we are not working.
Right.
Best of ideas, and as filmmakers, we know that, right? Our best ideas come in shower, or walking our dog, or looking just like I just saw Sejal, and we can see the blue sky in background. And it was suddenly such a relief to my eyes, and I was like, okay, I have some ideas now, and it was,
Sejal, let's see that.
yeah. She switched off her camera, I think, but that was such a beautiful sight. And like,
Yay!
hey,
Thank you, Sejal. Wow,
thank you,
lovely.
Sajal. That's such a beautiful sight.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Anybody else wants to switch on their video, guys, and share some nice things at your backdrop? I have these plants here, so that
Uh,
helps me. Yeah,
yeah. And this
so lovely.
painting that Pallavi has her as her DP,
Yeah,
that's also so
exactly.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys, you want to? We can open up for questions, and if you can switch on the video, we can get a sense of who you all are. Some of you, if you want to. Hey, Akanksha. Hey, Pallavi.
Hey,
Hi, Swati. Hey, lots of windows. Does anybody have any questions? We can open it up for questions and any sharing, because I remember, Pallavi, I think in your survey also you wrote about learning to dance and how that has helped you cope with this time as well. If there's any learning we can have from each other or share anything, we can do that.
you're asking me?
Yeah, if you want to share anything or ask anything.
Uh, yeah, by nature, I'm a slow person as it is. So, this lockdown uh, was not such a surprise to me, like not such a drastic change in my lifestyle. Um but yes, whatever was happening around me, like especially those migrant laborers, moving from on the streets,
Yeah.
that had disturbed me a lot, and uh, because of that, I could not concentrate on uh, my life in general. Like this basic thing that I'm not able to do anything, I'm not able to go out and
Yeah.
help or do something about it. Uh, so so then it just clicked. Somebody had sent me a old video of me dancing, very old something, and uh, that refreshed my memory and rekindled my interest in Kathak. And so I just took on and switched on YouTube and started learning some new Kathak steps every day. And it sets the challenge, so now it's a difficult step, now you have to achieve it. So it will take a week to achieve. So every day you're looking forward to it. So that way, I engaged my mind uh, during those days. And so that brought a lot of relief and soothing and peace and satisfaction, creative satisfaction. And also that thinking I am using my time creatively.
Yeah.
And cooking was another uh, activity, which is very healing. And this lockdown has given me a lot of time to try out various recipes. And uh, yeah, like nature walk, and um, chit chatting with my family. I started using video camera for the first time, like
Yeah, I
uh,
think that's a
WhatsApp
really,
video calls,
yeah.
and looking at their faces, just being just to be able to see them talking was such a relief in this lockdown. Now I have gotten used to it. Yeah, so yeah, somebody else can come forward.
Does anybody else want to share anything, ask questions? Do you want to talk about your cats?
Me?
Sejal.
Sejal. Okay.
So I am in Rajasthan right now. So I
Oh,
don't have
okay.
cats around me.
Okay.
Yeah, but apart from that, it's been quite refreshing to be in Rajasthan right now. I have never looked at my native place with the same gaze which I used to look at it before. Now this is a pure luxury. Before it was just ठीक है, घर की खेती है, सही है. But I think now the lockdown has made us not take things for granted. Everything around us, and a cup of chai really means a lot now. So yeah, even when you go for shopping, you make sure you only buy the stuff you really need and not just hoard or overshop. You actually are making you're making more choices, and so I think it's been good in that aspect. Yeah.
Right. So you're also a writer and filmmaker. Do you how have you felt in the last few months? Are you struggling with anything?
So like he said, I was being very harsh on myself that I need to write, and in that quest I had kind of stopped living a life. But then when lockdown hit, everybody was starting from ground zero, which was like, okay, I don't have to now be in a rat race. Everybody's actually in the same rut right now.
Yeah.
So
That's an interesting point.
so that realization gave me a sense of grounding. It's very ironic, but it did. And of course, then my mom has always been living a life in the real sense. You know, picking up hobbies. She was just trying to whistle all through the lockdown. So I was like, look at the tiny things women in the 50s are actually taking up. And I must say, women in the 50s know how to live a life compared to us young people. So, yeah, so looking at, and even I picked up dancing like her. And
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I even joined an improv group. So, and I've also been cooking a little bit here and there. And yeah, looking at the sunsets, sunrises, full moons, new moons, and all of that. So yeah, it's been quite refreshing. This lockdown has been for sure.
Thank you
And
so much.
from all these, my stories are going to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly what Pawan was saying. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that so much because we do get caught in that whole film craziness and watching and, oh, look at the production design, look at the costume, look at this, look at that.
Yeah.
But I think
so when she said to make a list, one thing which really pulls on my energy is binge watching movies or TV shows. So I'm trying not to do that. Yeah, and I had a bunch of other things and things that really light me up. So yeah, no binge watching.
It's very difficult not to, but yes.
Yeah.
Swati, Anisha, anybody else wants to share anything? Simran, Akanksha.
So it was a really lovely restorative session. I think these are things that all of us know, but I'm just amazed at how frequently we need to constantly reiterate all of these things. And, actually they're so nuanced as well. So I've actually made a list
on your
of...
video.
Hey, no.
Please. We can't see you. We can't get a sense of...
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Come on.
Okay, hi. So I actually made a list of, 3 questions while both Pawan and Lahar was speaking. And I think it is subjective because, of course, all of us have our own ways of, figuring these things out. So one important question for me is, what is the right way to rest? Because again, just browsing through social media can become overwhelming and, become stressful. So again, is that really resting? Another question is because when Lahar said, put your energizers down, one of them, actually 2 of them are related to being productive. So I was like, is it toxic for productivity to be one of my energizers? And Pawan kind of responded to that because we do love whatever kind of work that we do. So, it's got that double bind there and it's confusing. So again, then my question was, if I do prioritize rest and other things, how do I recalibrate, these things without compromising on productivity? So yeah, so there's some thinking involved over there. But yeah, really interesting. I think it, is going to make me think and engage with these things in a much deeper way. So thank you. Really lovely session. Thank you, Pawan and Lahar and Pooja. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And yeah, very interesting question. And even I was thinking about the energy bit, that so for me, arguments bring me down a lot. And it really, I think, living with a partner for 24/7 in these times is also very draining on the relationship. And so that is something which one needs to work on. So that boundary is then we can bond with us, but we also have to deal with the things which are taking away our energy. We can't completely avoid them. So Leher, do you want to address that in some way? Like how do we keep the draining bits away from us?
I would actually love Pawan to address it because I think it's very nuanced and connected with a lot that he's been sharing.
So Pawan,
Pawan,
if you want.
think you'd like to speak about it?
Yeah, thanks. So there is going to be some amount of training. That's not something that we can really help, and that's also part of our daily lives. Even when there was no pandemic, there was some training happening. So
Sure.
yes, definitely rest is something that's going to help. Also decide how you're going to rest.
Right.
Those are the things that are going to help. Enjoy, do things that you enjoy. If you like sleeping, please sleep. That's again something that's very, very underrated.
There's so much guilt around sleeping and taking a nap.
Yeah, I don't know
When I
why.
tell people I've taken a nap, I feel guilty for saying that.
Yeah, again, because we are not being productive.
Yeah,
And though one school definitely says that we are being productive even when we are sleeping because the brain is making so many connections that it
absolutely.
won't when we are awake.
And
So,
and the restorativeness of sleep when I come back
yeah.
after sleeping and I'm dealing with this script or anything that I'm writing. I think the ideas are so fresh. Then I can go back and revise, and when I revise it, I see so many new ways of dealing with things that I was stuck in. So that idea, I really love that idea of rest that you've talked about, and I think we're going to practice it more than before. We just have like 4, 5,
So
6
my
minutes. Sorry.
just
Sure.
just one more, just because of what you asked right now. I think, of course, it's inevitable that we are going to need to do things that drain us. Like that's life, right? You can't have only the positive because I mean, you always have to do both. But maybe that balance is really important where, okay, if you know that you need to spend so much time doing things that drain you, then find that thing that energizes you and make sure you do some of that so that you are trying to stay in balance as much as possible. And which is why I kind of kept, that circle as a dotted line, because there's always going to be things moving in and out. It's not a solid line, it's a dotted line. So there's going to be things that sometimes, like Simran shared, so productivity is in and out, because sometimes, so it's again, how do you keep the balance between when it's feeling good and then when it's not feeling good anymore? So I think just kind of, I think bringing awareness into that and keep trying to balance, which is, I think, what Pawan is saying. I think rest allows us to think about the balance.
Very nice. Yeah, I think I'm glad you spoke about the idea of balance and that it's a dotted line where it's coming and going. That makes sense. Does anyone else have anything to ask? Akanksha, Swati? Yeah, Akanksha.
Hi, firstly, Pooja, congratulations on organizing such a wonderful talk. It's been, I mean,
Aw, thank
it was
you.
on some
Everybody.
really interesting things, and addressed a lot of my concerns. Um, so something that I have been struggling with um has been, so surprisingly, I am not as anxious as I thought this pandemic would make me, or as I was before the pandemic began. Uh, so I have anxiety all the time, and I was, I was expecting it to somehow aggravate my condition, but fortunately it did not. However, one thing that has been bothering me a bit is my unhealthy obsession with films. I'm using the word unhealthy because that's all I think about. That's all I do, and uh, I mean, just to share like this light joke, which I every time I'm asked to, I'm staying with my family right now, moved back to Agra, which is my hometown. And every time I'm asked to do some chores or, just sit with family. And if I'm watching something, I don't know why I do not prioritize anything over it. And I'll just, brush it off by saying, artist who now, or because I'm an artist, so I won't do this, I won't do that. But jokes aside, I think it's eating into a lot of other things. And I don't know if if prioritizing this over everything else is okay, or if it's like right now I'm kind of enjoying it, but I don't know if it's going to be a problem in the longer run.
Great. Yeah. No, I think valid points that that obsession, unhealthy obsession, I completely relate to it. And I think all of us who are so passionate about it feel that need to constantly engage with cinema, and
Right.
yeah, that can be a little debilitating and take us away from living life, which is what Pawan is trying to bring us back into,
Right.
focusing us on that.
What he said about productivity really blew me away, and I was kind of relieved. But I'm also worried about, because if I have a non-productive day, that day for me has like zero value,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that's something to think about.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been revelatory and enlightening, and very, very lovely to have all of you together. And we will share some more resources. We will email you the Pawan and Lehar's email IDs to be in touch with them if you have any more queries, or if you want to follow up on any questions. So have a restful year and a creative year. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
everyone.
conducting this. Thank you, Pawan. Thank you,
Thank
Leher.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Pooja,
everyone.
Leher, Pawan. Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
It was
Thank
really lovely.
you.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.